Good evening and welcome to the Saturday evening happy hour. Here's my cold glass of water on a very hot evening here. It's in the mid 90s, 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, today I want to talk about how to respect one's roots but not be trapped by them. Actually, this line, respect your roots but do not let them trap you, is one of the key takeaways from a book written about Cato the Younger, a very rebellious and a brave statesman from ancient Rome. The book is titled Rome's Lost Citizen: The Life and Legacy of Cato. It was written by Rob Goodman and Jimmy Soni. It's a very compelling read, and those type of characters greatly appeal to me in terms of how they stood for their values. And eventually, Cato killed himself because he did not want to be subservient to a dictator such as Caesar. Caesar, meaning it's actually the word for emperor in ancient Rome. So there were many Caesars: Augustus, Julius Caesar, so on and so forth. Nero being one of the worst. They were all Caesars. That's the title. But anyway, coming back to this, what was so interesting about Cato the Younger was he himself came from a long line of famous people. His grandfather was a very famous senator and statesman. So was his father, and there were statues about that were made of all famous men and the Cato seniors, his father and grandfathers. Statues were very much front and center in the town, the so-called town or city square. However, Cato did not let himself be trapped by what came before him. He chose to be his own man. And this has always been a problem in life, especially if you come from a family that has had made some reputation for itself. Say, let us say you come from a famous line of businessmen and women, a famous line of professors and teachers, like the family that I come from. My father, my grandfather, they were professors, teachers, and so were many of my aunts and uncles. Um, and we carry this burden. Everybody is now looking through that lens. Oh, this person was such a marvelous person, or he did something very compelling. All that is good for them, but I have to be myself, and I cannot let the past trap me. And same can be said of my children. They have to be their own self, and they cannot trap themselves in my shadow. They have to differentiate and become their own self. So coming back to Cato the Younger, he did some radical things, just not for the sake of being different or distance himself from his ancestors, because he had his own values, and some of them being he did not want the captured populations of the Roman army to be killed and tortured. And actually, he wanted to put a general on trial who massacred a Germanic tribe that was defeated by the Roman army, a kind of a genocide, which was unheard of, because in those days, anyone who is an enemy is considered a barbarian. So he was one of the first people to think like a cosmopolitan, meaning as a citizen of the world. The same thing can be said about many things, company, country. There is always that shining city on the hill. There is this mythical past that was. Same thing can be said about companies with a long history. But oftentimes, when things don't change in our life or in an organization's life, they enter a state of stasis and they start withering on the vine. And likewise, if I do not differentiate myself from what came before me and be my own self, and just want to be a replica of say, my father or grandfather or great grandfather, it's going to be a miserable life, because I'm trying to be an imitation, and oftentimes it becomes a very poor imitation of who they were. They were great people in their own time, in their same place, and let the universe bless them. Likewise, if you were to look at the companies that were founded, great companies like General Motors, General Electric, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, to just name a few. Um, they were great in their time, but then they slipped into a kind of a status quo or complacency because of the arrogance that might have set in because they thought they ruled the market or whatever, and they became a distant shadow or figure of what they were. So, not being trapped by the past is something important. And one of the other things about Cato the Younger, the takeaway from the book, was never hesitate to be ridiculous or to to be so differentiated from what's going on in the popular culture. Never hesitate that. Never hesitate. And he, for example, wore dresses or dressed himself in a way that was not in line with the style, fashion, or standing of a statesman. He did not care. What really mattered to him was he being virtuous? Was he questioning things that were taken for granted as a loyal citizen? And last but not least, he was also a role model for himself. So when asked uh, what would be remembered of him, he very cryptically remarked that he doesn't need a statue, that his own doings are actually walking the walk would be a memorable thing to remember, and he doesn't have to be commemorated or memorialized with a statue. So that was Cato the Younger, and he was also keen on not checking the boxes. If you were to look at our popular culture, there are hoops to jump, boxes to check, and many people become very adept at it, and they don't want to take the risk, or they don't want to truly be themselves. They are kind of for authentic or for diversified, so to speak, because it comes out as good, because say in my own case, let's say I have brown skin or a certain look, I can say, hey, I need to be honored, respected because I bring in diversity in a culture that is very white, or of a certain kind, or of a certain religion, or no religion, whatever. I don't desire that. And likewise, Cato the Younger did not desire to be treated as somebody special, and he knew when to shut up, when to just observe things, and when to speak his mind, even if it ended up being punitive or punished him. And he was brave enough to do that, and eventually he had to take his own life because things had become very dire. So, in closing, I would say all of us, whether it be an individual or an organization, we need to respect our roots, but we should not let that hoary past trap us. Have a good rest of your weekend, and bye for now.